and welcome to another live demonstration. Earlier in the week I showed you the wonderful effects brush and all its qualities, and I said I wanted to introduce you to another new brush from Da Vinci. So here it is, and this is a really lovely quality tool. So this is a handmade, hand-bound, wire, copper-bound wire, natural hair. So it's called a wash brush because it's quite a big brush and will give you that lovely quality for watercolour. Beautifully balanced handle, it feels nice. And on this end, this is the really special bit. So it has a metal tip. I'm sure you've heard of silver tip, which was a type of drawing made very popular in the Renaissance period by Leonardo da Vinci and other Renaissance artists, where they would use silver rod or a silver wire to put marks on the surface. And the metal tip, this is the Ethergraf painted metal tip, it does the same. So it's an all-in-one tool, and I'll be using just this one brush for all of the work because I actually want to see its full potential. So even for small detail work, because it keeps a nice tip, it works fine. So I did notice with the metal point tip, it is again surface dependent. So depending on the surface, it makes a better mark. I didn't bring an eraser. It does rub out. Again, it's surface dependent, but it erases, which is another great use, especially when you're doing it on a watercolour paper. So this is a piece of practice paper, and you can see there how lovely and strong the marks are. I'm going to be using a piece of Saunders Waterford. The marks aren't quite as strong, so just check on a piece of paper before you use the end that it's going to be as strong as you need it. I'm going to do a traditional rose, just make it into a nice square shape, because I just love to be able to reveal at the end and take off the tape. I'm going to be using the metal tip to draw out the rose, and it doesn't matter. I'm taking the image I've got as reference, and it doesn't matter if I go a little bit different. So I'm just starting from the middle, and it's a very light. It's different to the practice paper I used. That was a cellulose paper. This is a cotton paper, and it's all to do with the way the surface is sized and things like that. But it's given me enough of a mark that I can see it. And it's not like I haven't got the image in front of me, to be honest. That is the important bit. That's what I'm going to need to use. I'll just check I've got an eraser. I have. That's cool. Don't like using a razor. I always recommend not using one. But sometimes if you've made too many lines, you've lost the line you need to look at. Hopefully I won't need it, because I'm not overly concerned that it's going to be totally the same as the rose I'm seeing, but it's going to be a good. I'd sometimes lose myself on the number of petals. So this one comes round here. This one, middle bit. And I can always pick it up once I'm painting, to be honest. Right, okay, so this one has a little lip there and a dip. Going on to this big one that comes round, picks up here, but folds over. So there's one there, just done that one, and this one. And like I say, it doesn't really matter if I miss one, but I do like the shapes this is giving me already. It's worked quite well. And then there's this big one that comes around here and then kicks back here, giving a flick, then you've got the round bit of the flower, which might have, I'll just change slightly. Okay, so then you've got this big that comes, just trying to work out. Okay, so it comes in there and gets caught there. It's got a lovely lip. I know it's got a kick in it, so I'll put that in. It's just an interesting feature. And then that comes round here, picking up the other end of the flower. Like I say, I can go back and once I start to put the paint on, I might need to move things a little bit, but it's got the sketch down, so the metal tip, unlike a graphite, will just keep going because it's not actually transferring the metal to the surface. I think it's kind of oxidizing in some way. And rubbing out, let's do this harsh lime. So you can see, just can take it back and put it back on again if you need to. So easy to remove. Let's just clean off any stray eraser. And it's a wash brush and it's natural hair. So because it's natural hair, I'm going to need to make sure it's soaked. So just a dip like that isn't enough to get all the hair in the middle wet. So I'm just going to make sure I pick up plenty of water. Just use my tissue to take off the droplets. And you can see I've not done anything, not even flicked it, and how it's naturally gone back to a lovely point. So one brush which does a lot of tasks, and so I'm going to keep it simple. I'm using just 2 colours. So this is the SAA Permanent Rose. It looks quite red straight out the tube, but is a wonderful pink colour when you get it very wet. The pink comes out when you add the water. So I'm just going to do a very light wash and just pick up the shapes. You see it catching on the surface. That's the surface of the Saunders Waterford. It does that because I haven't wet it first. But it's a lovely paper to work on if you want really nice soft lines. I will often use the different papers. Just sometimes it doesn't matter. You can get them to work, but other times when you want nice sharp lines, I like Bockiford. When I'm using the softer lines, I may go to Saunders, and it's giving me, lost a little bit, a heavyweight surface. So I'm just putting the first wash on, and I know being watercolour it will dry. I don't want to much lighter. So the great thing about using very few colours is you can do lots of layering without muddying, which you can't always do if you've got lots of colours and you're layering. They tend to turn to mud. So that's one layer. While that's still wet, it's going to be a little easier for me to now put on a little bit more colour. It's not going to give me sharp edges now because it's going to be quite soft, but it just helps me plot a little bit where the dark edges are. So it's inside of the leaves. Again, it's just plotting. Doesn't really matter that if it's completely the same, I can keep going back in. But I think that makes, even now, it makes some lovely soft but different tones. And you can see the different tones just from this one colour. And I'll keep looking where this one is. This is this bit here. Actually, comes around there. So you can keep adding bits that you may not be sure of. I don't know if you can see, but it now just gives me a little bit more clearer of where my leaves are.
Anita?
Yes.
I had a question about the silver tip.
Yes.
Is it removable and replaceable?
No,
it probably will last forever.
yeah, it's not like graphite. It's not used in the graphite. From what I understand, I've tried to read up on it, it's just oxidizes the paper and leaves a mark. It's really odd. I mean, read up about silver point, which is a lovely way of working, but this is a metal point, so it's not silver, but it does the same job. So it's just a beautiful, I mean, it feels nice. It's a lovely, really nice quality tool, and it's a joy to have, to be honest. Okay, so again, I'm just, even while it's still wet, I'm adding another darker. So this is my third layer of tone, all one colour. And I don't know if you can see, because I want to just now start to look and bring out that darker points. But look what I'm doing with this very big brush. I'm still being able to pick up really detailed work. Thought it would be quite difficult at first to be able to use the brush, but with a very light touch you are able to really get some quite fine lines. I'm lost a little bit now. Comes around here and kicks back there. So this bit is here. Back in there. So just using the rose as reference, if I've missed a layer out, it doesn't really matter, it's going to do its job.
You've got your rose picture a different way up to me.
No? Maybe.
Yeah, you've got yours upside down.
No, it's the way I like it.
The dark corner was bottom left.
Oh, it works for me. Okay. It's fine.
Well, I apologise to the people at home who have got their picture upside down. I'll try and flip it. Yeah,
that's Gary not knowing the right way up for a rose. This is perfectly fine. It's the way I painted it. I haven't seen your image, Gary. I don't know which way up.
Well, I've got it the way up you sent it to me.
Well, there you go.
But you've got it upside down.
Well, maybe. That's life.
Okay,
it's there to challenge you.
I'll see if I can flip it.
I just like to keep you on your toes. Gary and I have worked together for many years. So
many years.
Not that many.
Only 17.
Only 17. Gosh, that's quite a lifetime commitment. Okay, so I'm just going to keep fluffing around. So what I'm going to do is we'll take a short break. I can then dry. That means that then I can start to add much stronger detail without it being so soft. So join me in a few minutes after the short break when I've had a chance to dry this, and then we'll continue and build up those lovely layers.
Let us bring out the artist in you. If you'd like to learn how to paint or improve your painting, the SAA is here to inform, encourage, and inspire you every step of the way. When you become an SAA member, you get so many benefits, including the free bi-monthly newsletter Paint, packed with inspiring step-by-step projects, fascinating articles, and detailed information to get your creative juices flowing. Discounts on over 13,000 art products featured on the SAA website and in the Home Shop catalogue, with free order line and free delivery in the UK mainland. A devoted SAA team on hand to answer your questions and give you the confidence and motivation you need to start painting and develop at a pace that suits you. Plus, a free welcome pack filled with gifts and practical help to get you started, as well as the opportunity to make friends with like-minded people.
Best thing about being a member is the inspiration from the magazines, to be able to purchase things at a very reasonable price.
Yeah, you get the reduction on all the materials, the advice you get.
I can shop from home.
It's a community.
It seemed like a very friendly sort of organisation.
If somebody's thinking of joining, don't spend too long thinking. Just join. They'll love it.
And we're back.
Hello and welcome back. Gary's been trying to flip the image, but I don't think he succeeded, so we'll bear with him.
It's tricky to do it live.
He may do it at the end of the session. Okay, so I've had a chance to dry that with a hairdryer. Just so now, again with the same colour, I can just start to look again and think about the shape I'm trying to achieve. So inside here, it's got a lovely kick, and it kind of makes a question mark there. So a lot of painting is looking at shapes. It's not always looking at the image. And I think that's where people can go wrong. They get obsessed with looking at the image as a whole, when actually if you... Can I help you? I think Gary's trying to work out how to flip the image. Instead of looking at it as a whole, you look at parts of it, look at it as shapes, lots of shapes put together. So a natural hairbrush isn't my favourite brush to use a lot of the time because it doesn't always offer me that great control, because it's a bit too soft for my liking. It literally is my liking. And I know a lot of people work very successfully with the soft brush. But this one, if you're it's the gentle touch. Maybe I don't have such a gentle touch with the natural hair brushes, but I wanted just to show what you can do. That even just one big brush can give you so many possibilities. And you'll notice I often talk about how you hold your brush in different ways. For this really fine detail, I'm holding it much more like a pen or a pencil. And this isn't the final, this is just my fourth layer of this fabulous colour. One of my favourites because I'm lost a little bit with this one. That's the inner, comes around, so there you go, there. It's just a lovely colour that I will use on its own. It mixes well, it gives lovely tones. And you can see I've had 3 layers on here and still using just that one colour. It's not too pink. Right, taking some of the moisture off the belly and just... So for me, I don't normally slow down this much, but I want to just show you the possibility of the brush, and I have to slow down to show you this because you don't need me racing ahead as always. So it's this softness, this bending, I don't always, maybe it's I can't control as well, but what you can do is you flip the brush around like this to get it back. And just looking back here, so this one comes below. And I just love the challenge of using the one brush and the one colour at the moment, because you just see how much you can achieve. I don't know if you're like me and have so many, well, I have so many different products, which I don't get to use them all. I mean, luckily, because I do this, I get to use a lot of them. But sometimes you find you always go back to the same thing, the same favourite medium or tool. Thing is it may be your favourite, But if you struggle with it, change. Just try something new, because you may find you're a better pencil artist. You may find you're a better pastel artist. Okay, that's nice there. I don't know if you can see, but it's starting to just be a lot cleaner, but still keeping those tones underneath. So I'm just looking round. This comes round here. I'm literally using the colour of the paper and the light layers just to shape, not put anything else other than this permanent rose and the one brush. Okay, that's the flip there. Actually, that's that one. So it comes in here. So what I'm looking at is I'm looking at each shadow and each shape. I'm not looking at the shape of the rose. I'm really just looking at where the dark areas are and what shape it makes. And it should fit together. It's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. It should fit together in the end. I like to start from the middle, radiate out, because if you have gone wrong, it's where you can kind of fix on the outer petals. If you've got that lovely tightness of the middle, the other petals can be a bit looser. Okay. So, like I say, it's a very soft brush. If I turn and twist it, I can keep the point. So for me, this is a much more kind of slower, detailed kind of way of working. But I just need to push the brush and myself a little bit. So that soft bend you get from it, because it's soft. Okay, let's see this. It comes round here. I'm going to wet the brush a little bit more. Plus, because it's natural hair, it takes a lot of water and will hold a lot of water, which is why I'm just tapping out some of the water from the belly, because I don't always need that much. Just now darkening. It flips over here, comes around here. I can be a little bigger now. And I know I've said this before, but this is why I stand, so I can move and flow. So just looking at the shape. This is quite dark inside, so I think that's coming on nicely. And I haven't yet used the colour I was going to use to darken. Like I say, I do try this previously before doing it, and I think I've learnt from the one I did, even though I do actually like the one I did. I think this one is working better. I'm much better with the tonal values and a little bit better with the observation. So if you are painting an item, you need to draw it, you need to paint it, you need to get familiar with it, and then you can just, once you're familiar with it, it will work much easier. But every painting is going to be different. It's going to be successful, or there's going to be areas that aren't quite as successful. And that's the fun of painting. It's always a bit of not only are the paints a little bit temperamental, sometimes they'll do something you don't expect. You've got the paper, you've got the brushes, but that's all part of the fun. Don't get overwhelmed by it. You're the artist, you're in control. You just say, that's what I wanted to do. Okay, I think I'm nearly there. I'm just going to bring out this bit here. Just another, and again, look at all those tones I've managed to achieve. What I'm going to now do is just start to, because I can keep going and keep going, I'm just going to start to darken. So now I'm looking at the areas which are darker, and they're just here. But I don't want to darken too much, so I've used a touch of the French ultramarine with a lot more of the permanent rose, just to give it a slightly darker touch. I know it will dry much less harsh than you can see it now, so I'm not too worried about it. But again, I'm looking at shape. I'm looking at these, where is the dark shapes on the rose? Now you drop the brush, bring it round. Needs a little bit more of a curl shape. So I'm again still revisiting, reshaping, looking at maybe areas which aren't working as well. Because this is very dark, I'm just going to drop a touch of the ultramarine in. Okay, let's go back, let's continue to work out. So that one I've just done. Flip down here, it's got a slight lip. Comes round, dark onto here. Okay. That way. And if it's too strong, you can just soften. And just push the pigment. Okay, right. Let's move on to this bit. So you've got that bit, you've got that narrow bit there. Comes down here. Just darker that way. So again, constantly re-looking, looking at areas that may be slightly out. So this needs to darken a little bit. What I'm desperately trying to do is keep some of this lovely light. It's worked fine. So just going to darken a little bit more here. Just let it run while it's still wet. Right, coming down here. Just being very careful not to over darken. What you want to do is give it the idea that these flower petals are further forward and the bits in the middle are the densest and darkest. But I don't want to over darken areas. Maybe a little bit darker here, just so it... So this comes round, kicks dark onto here, so I actually need a little bit too dry. Darken. So it's practice that gets you used to the tools, knowing whether you've put too much or too little on, and then walking away, because I cannot tell you how many times I keep working on something when I keep turning my head, just take a break, it's not working. When actually walking away, coming back, it really does help. I know I say it constantly, but it really does help. Right, so this is darker coming out. By putting that slightly darker, what it's done is pushed any of the white or lighter areas out. Okay, that's good. Now, so work on this area here. I've lost something here. Quite dark here. It's dark. And that's dark there. Because I'm using the rose I've got as reference, so it doesn't matter if I didn't, that's wrong there. Okay, that's fixed. Okay, so under here, it's dark. So all this tiny detail done with this one large brush. And I know people often will have gone into having a much smaller brush by now, but it's a challenge to see what this actually can do. Okay, that's quite dark. Let's just soften it. Let me look at what the shapes it wants to make. So it's still, I know I keep talking about shapes, but that's really what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the shape this is making. So don't understand what that's doing at the moment. So actually this is this one here, and it comes round under there. That's why I've gone a little bit awry, but that makes more sense now. Okay, that one is there. And this is here. Okay. So just finish off this bit of tonal value. Just going to maybe look a little bit of colour on here because it just needs to fit in. So this is where the lovely wash brush comes into its own. Okay, soften up here. Right. I think that's enough for now. It doesn't mean I won't go in, but I want to now do the background because I will bring the background into the flower. So just quick wet. Gary's very nicely given me some clean water, so I've got a dirty water and a clean water. I haven't used it at all, but he's very kind. I should do, but to be fair, I have used one colour, so you can see the contaminated colour on the page, which is not a problem for me because I think it pulls it together. But yes, I've forgotten to use it. So in with the blue, I want to just, and you can see how lovely these go together. So I'll just drop in some of the red as well. I want to do this quite, because it's quite wet, I want to darken. Careful not to leave halos round. So what I'm going to do is just put this on for now. I'm going to make sure this is quite dark under here. Just giving you again different values even in the background. So the darkest here and coming up a little bit lighter. I'm just dipping into the blue and the permanent rose so you can see what a lovely purple they mix. Okay, and see how that's bleeding in. I'm just going to take this colour back into the rose. Just as a last glaze. Just ties it all together. I'm not worried about it going in. I think it just brings it. And let's let it run the background and the subject run together. I just like to get it to tie together a little bit. I don't want. Okay. So what I would let that do is let it dry, then maybe do a little bit of, fixing of tones, but it's letting it dry. That's when you'll see the full potential of it. But I hope you have seen the potential of the brush, which is what I was trying to show you. Like I say, it's beautifully balanced. It's lovely to work with, and you can use it for fine detail as well as that lovely wash with the extra addition of this Ethergraf metal point tip, which, you're really harking back to history and tradition with that. Okay, so I know it's still wet, but hopefully this will work. Just take off the tape, which Gary had to get straight because I don't mind if it's not straight, it doesn't bother me, but apparently if it's not straight it makes his camera angles look off, so we had to get a tape measure and measure it. There you go. So I hope you enjoyed that demonstration, and I hope you do get the opportunity to even just feel this wonderful tool. And join me next week for another live demonstration.